Welcome everyone to 3 Count Commentaries. I am MagMongoSlade, and we are about to dive deep into the delulu of Mercedes Mone once more. She's on a podcast with this woman called Katie Sackhoff. I have no idea who this woman is, but she looks like a psychiatrist or something. Just real boring coffee shop dog mom looking woman here. So we're going to talk about this. I'm not sure everything Mercedes is going to say, but I did see a headline that she's going to blame men for something. So let's see what it is, even though I did cue it up as I had to scan through this thing to figure out when she's going to talk about men. But it seemed like it's about to come up. So let's get into this and see how long this goes and how much can we handle at one time.
Yeah. What are you trying to accomplish for women in sport? Because it's a huge topic right now. I mean, especially financially. And there are people out there that say, you know, when women start bringing in the money that the men bring in, then they'll start making the money that the men make. There you go. What are your thoughts?
Okay. Let's see. What are your thoughts about women making money in the business? Because I can't think of any sports where the women draw nearly as much as the men. There have been times where things have spiked, like in the WNBA. Like right now, this is the first time ever. I think last year was the first time they had multiple games that have been sold out and high TV ratings for our WNBA games. But in its 30-year history or whatever, it's usually a huge flop. But let's see what she has to say.
My thoughts is, number one, we do. And especially in the sport that I'm in pro wrestling. It's shown weekly on television ratings. It's shown weekly with our merch sales. It's shown weekly with just fans coming and holding up their signs and they knowing that they came and bought a ticket to see the women. It is proven that we do it just like the guys. So why not get paid equally?
Okay, let's stop right here for a sec. I don't think there's any woman that has, look, I don't think there's any woman who can honestly argue that she draws the same as most of the top level male wrestlers in either WWE or AEW. Even if she sells merchandise, which she might, even if her TV ratings jump, which they might, I don't think it's consistent enough to justify you saying, well, we should get paid the same as men. I just don't think that's the case. But let's see if she can make that argument. She's already tried it, but I don't think so. I would like to see a graph or something. Somebody call Brandon Thurston. Draw us up a graph that shows us that the women, in terms of merch sales and TV ratings, are equal to the men. Because I don't believe that. I'm just going to deny that one offhand.
Why not get paid the same? Why not be given the same amount of TV time just like them? So that's what I'm here to do. That's what I'm here to prove, because I've been able to have the opportunity to do that so many times because of the hard work that I've been putting in my whole career. I'm the first ever woman to main event a pay-per-view, which is so special. I'm the first ever African woman to main event a WrestleMania. There's just so many first time evers that I've got to do and accomplish. So for me, my biggest goal is to make that happen for women globally, all over the world.
All right, let's pause this again. There's a recurring theme. I'm kind of like, the Columbo of this thing. I just kind of started thinking my way through it. And he said, she says this all the time, right? I'm the first black woman to main event WrestleMania. I was the first black woman to main event a pay-per-view. All the hard work that I put in. She kind of repeats herself. And this ego that she has. Does she realize that she was put in those positions? Or does it feel like she she earned those positions. Because, somebody decided to put you in the main event. It wasn't like the show was sold with you as the main event. Has there been a show that I can think of outside of maybe, and I know it happens a lot more frequently. Shows where the women are pushed as the top match on the show or the top angle. Didn't happen that much 5 or 10 years ago. And I don't think anybody knew that Sasha Banks and Bianca Belair was going to be the main event of WrestleMania the year that they main evented. I just don't think anybody knew that for sure when they walked in the building. So that's a different feeling, however. That's a different approach. When people know that you are the main event and they expect to see you go on last, that's a completely different thing than, you know what? Let's do a women's main event first. That's okay. And it's nice to put that little feather in your cap. But did you earn it? Were you really the top draw for the show? Did the show live or die by your appearance? Are you really like the Hulk Hogan of this show? Are you like the Stone Cold Steve Austin of this show? I don't think so. I don't think she's ever been in that position. I don't think she's ever been in the position. Well, maybe on the indies, because when you see things like House of Glory, they really, really, really promoting her on the show. When she did the New Japan shows, especially the very first one, they leaned very heavily on her being the main event of the show. Or I don't even think she main evented the show. I think she was in the middle somewhere. But she was one of the main focal points of the show. That's when you are the person who should go on last. When you're the person that your match is what everybody wants to see. She claims that this is happening for women. I just don't see it. I don't see it. I can't think of any match where we all went into the show thinking that the women's match is going to be the best match and is going to be the biggest drawing match. Again, I just don't see it. Let her finish her thought.
My biggest goal is to make that happen for women globally, all over the world.
Once more, when somebody says they want to help others, hold your pockets, because 9 times out of 10, it really just is good PR. It sounds great, but she's winning all the time. She doesn't want to lose, so.
And to give a place for women to know, like, if I can do it, they can do it too. If I can go accomplish my dreams, they can do it too.
She wants to be a role model. Well, you have to stop being a brat first. Can't be a role model if you're a brat. Can't be a role model if you're whiny. And she's both of these things. I remember one of the last times I talked about Mercedes and I was talking about her wanting to be a role model. Somebody attacked me, somebody from her fan base. She never said that. She never said she wanted to be a role model. Well, what do you think it means when she says she wants to? If I can do it, then you can do it. What do you think that? What do you think that is? What do you think that is? Get lost.
If I can main event, you can main event. If I can be the number one woman in the sport, being the highest paid, then so can you guys. That's
false. You're selling dreams. You're selling these dreams, this hopium. Look, there are people who are special. They are better than others. I believe Mercedes is one of those people. As much as I rag on her, everybody knows that I actually like her. I just don't like her as kind of a person. Because the more she talks, the less I'm interested in actually what she's doing. But Stone Cold Steve Austin can't go to, Sean Spears and says, well, damn, son, if I can do it, why can't you do it? It's like you have to recognize that there's talent here and there's no talent here. Like one of these guys is charismatic, within a great storyline, has a cool moveset, has a great look. Great theme song. Everybody knows who he is. The other guy has a hot wife and a mohawk. You can't stop lying to people. Sometimes people are better than others. Sometimes some people got it and they don't. Other people don't got it. I know it sounds good to say, well, if I can do it, you can do it. But that's childish. It's childish. It's not real. Not everybody can do it. Some people can, but not everybody. All right? So the first thing you need to do is separate the fat from the muscle. Right? And people never do a good job of that because they're so busy trying to get everybody to like them instead of telling the truth. Most people are not going to make it. You're not. But you can get in somewhere. That doesn't mean you're going to be a complete failure. And it doesn't mean that just because you're not the main event, you're a failure. And this is the insecurity that is deep within the delusion of Mercedes. Underneath all her ego is this sense of insecurity where she thinks that these things should happen for her because she works so hard. Everybody works hard. Everybody. Just like she goes to the gym, the bums go to the gym. Just like she's working on her promos and building her character, the bums are working on their promos sometimes and building their characters. Some people just don't got it. They don't have the it factor. They don't have aura. They're not cool. They're not funny. They're not witty. They're not talented enough. But they might be good enough to have a solid run. And there's nothing wrong with that. Not everybody needs to be in the main event. Not everybody needs to be the highest paid talent. There has to be. I understand the idea of shooting for the moon and then landing amongst the stars. I get that, but I think if you set a false standard where everybody can do this, oh, I want everybody to do it, then you're just setting people up for failure when they don't make it. If you say, look, there's a space for you, like we've gone to the point where, especially with women's wrestling, there's set asides for them. There's places specifically for them. There's not only whole promotions dedicated to women's wrestling, but there's also parts of the shows that are dedicated to women. And guess what? Those women are going to have to fight for those spots. And then maybe you can expand the role of women on the show, which is what she wants credit for. She wants credit for expanding the role of women in the WWE, which is fine. But that's a positive. It doesn't need to be the I'm comparing myself to, and look, in her case, it would be like Roman Reigns. Now this is where she came from in like 2019 or 2020 or whatever, where she was talking about being the face of SmackDown and she wants just as much TV time as Roman Reigns. I could just tell everybody was rolling their eyes like, are you serious? What is wrong with this broad? Like, get real. Get real. But that's that insecurity. And insecurity comes from comparison. If you see somebody else doing so much better than you, that jealousy and that insecurity in your spirit will start jingling and jangling. And then you will start to even discount all the stuff that you've already done. All your great accomplishments and all the great progress that you have, you'll see it as less than because you're comparing yourself to somebody else.
What I want for women in pro wrestling and globally all over women's sports.
What do you see as the biggest roadblocks for that?
These men.
Uh-oh. I think she just stepped in it.
It's just these men. I feel like that's just the biggest roadblock. It's just sometimes we prove it so often, but it's never consistent with them. It's like, okay, let's give them a bone. Oh, they did great. Don't let them be better than us. Oh, we got to take our bone back. You know, it's letting them know it's actually okay to give us the same respect and time, and not to take that bone back, but to let us keep it and to consistently do it every single week. Not a little pity patty on the back, being like, okay, you can have this, you know, main event just this month. But next year, it's about us here. And, you know, it's just, I feel like it's just consistency that we have to show men all the time.
Okay. Get real. Okay, so, man, I feel like I nodded this thing before she came out with it. She's looking at the men as if the men are insecure, right? She's looking at the men as if the men are what's holding her back. Well, maybe the promoters, because the promoters tend to be male. But why not go work for a female promoter then? Go work for Jeannie Buss. You know, she's a billionaire. She has a wrestling show. You don't have to work that often. You could be star of that show if you want. You can never lose. But that's not what you wanted. You wanted money, right? So there's that. So the idea that you want to further women's wrestling, get real. But I will say this. WWE did try to push a woman as a top star. This was 2019. Of course, it was Becky Lynch. That ended up being one of the worst years in WWE history. They really wanted Becky Lynch to be the front runner, the face of the company. This was after they tried Ronda Rousey, and that shit didn't work out because everybody hated Ronda. And Becky was the most over. She was selling a ton of merchandise. Everybody thought she was going to be great. I believe, was Roman sick at that time, or was he just coming back from his illness? One or the other. And they had even diminished Seth Rollins to the man's man and pushed him to the side. They really wanted Becky Lynch to be the star of the show. She was opening the shows all the time. She was in the ring with Stone Cold Steve Austin. She was doing all sorts of stuff. It ended up being one of the worst years creatively in WWE history. She wasn't able really to lift up too many of the other women in the division. That's why they had her feuding with, I believe it was Lacey Evans for a time. It just didn't work. It didn't work. They tried it. It didn't work. You know, then I think a year or some change later, Sasha Banks was in the main event of WrestleMania after, you know, throwing a tantrum basically a year or two beforehand. And then she was gone by the next year. She was gone again. So the idea that women have not had their chance. Women have had plenty of chances. You know, Wendy Richter, in what was this, 1985, was on the cover of WWF magazine right alongside Stone Cold Steve Austin, right alongside Hulk Hogan. She believed in her mind, much like Sasha Banks, well, I'm a huge star. I should get paid the same thing as Hulk Hogan. No. You know, your angle was drawn because you were in an angle with a pop star. It was a big deal. But if I remember correctly, the Wendy Richter shows were not drawing on TV or in the building when she was pushed as a headliner. It didn't work. China, you know, several years later, pushed as a huge star in the women's division. Even wrestled men and was beating men. She had the same response. She wants to make the same amount of money as Stone Cold Steve Austin. Nope. Just, you can't justify it. And then she ended up doing porn. So, to say that they haven't had their chances, their opportunities, would be incorrect. I mean, we can go back 40 years or whatever. Now, Wendy Richter never main evented any pay-per-views, so there wasn't too many pay-per-views to main event. Well, actually, there were none. to main event in 1985. But she was the main event of Saturday Night's Main Event, which was, at the time, one of the most viewed events in wrestling history. And she was in a main angle on that show, and then she blew it up because her ego got too big. China, same thing. She went from being a woman who could wrestle men, and they're teasing putting the belt on her. It was even pitched for her to win the title eventually. But she self-destructed. And then you got this one. Sasha Banks, she actually got there. She main evented WrestleMania. And then she self-destructed. Now she's working in front of 2,000 people and doing indie shows. It just seemed to me like the women should be consistent. You know, and this is the sad part about why Becky Lynch's whole thing flopped. Because she didn't actually trip, I think. I think she did get a little big for her britches when she started talking about, you know, they should get rid of the concept of men and women's championships, which is something I think that was echoed by Lita, who of course is Delulu as hell. You know, there was some really weird stuff that was being said when Becky Lynch was the quote unquote top star. Some really weird things that was being said, but she didn't self-destruct. It was one of those things where it ended because she got pregnant. And that happened because of the worldwide pandemic. Sasha Banks, China, Wendy Richter, these are women who, you know, screwed themselves. Their egos got out of control. They thought they were just as important to the show as a guy who was, you know, children were mimicking all over the globe. When you get it in your mind that you're just as big a star as Hulk Hogan or Stone Cold Steve Austin or Roman Reigns, you're out of your fucking mind. How do you justify that? Like, you can say you're underpaid. Everybody's going to say that. But how do you justify jumping from being relatively unknown to, I'm just as big a star as Stone Cold Steve Austin? Like, are you fucking kidding me? I'm just as big a star as Hulk Hogan. Are you out of your mind? I want just as much TV time as Roman Reigns. Like, you're delusional. But it's the men's fault? I don't know. Okay. Let's see if she's got anything else to say.
Yeah. So you think it's the wrestlers sort of jealous of giving up their screen time?
Yes. And just the people in the back, they're so... I think just society is so used to lowering the women, and I think just for women, for us, it's we can't lower ourselves anymore.
Yeah.
We can't. Yeah.
Here come the victim narratives. Oh, society's lowering the women instead of artificially raising them. Like they look. I'm about to go full misogynist on this one. Women live life on easy mode. All right, let's just be real. 99% of diva stans and all of them, they like how the women look. They don't even give a fuck about these matches. They're talking about the gear, the theme songs, the hair, the wigs, all that bullshit before we even get to the match. They become stans of chicks because of how they look. Women live life on easy mode. The first time they meet any resistance, they call it oppression. You're just not going to give me what I want just because I'm here? It's because I'm a woman, isn't it? It's like, no, because you haven't fucking earned it. When you compare what you've done to what other people have done, you don't stack up. That's why you shouldn't compare yourself. Because it only hurts your feelings. And that's why she talks about this stuff endlessly. That's why she mentions, oh, the first black woman to main event WrestleMania, the first woman to main event. Because that's, in her mind, that's important. Nobody else thinks about that kind of shit. Nobody cares. That stuff is done. What's done is done. What's next? That you were relishing in the past. Nobody gives a shit about that. The one thing about this stuff is that when you're dealing in sports, usually, you're dealing with hardcore capitalists. Dana White, Dana White didn't even want women's MMA until Ronda Rousey. And then he made sure Ronda Rousey's face was on every fucking thing. Every poster. She was constantly doing interviews. They were putting her in movies. They were showing Ronda Rousey in your face constantly. Because Ronda Rousey made them money. So the fact that Dana White didn't even want women's MMA, it disappeared. When you start to really make money, when you start to really help business, all this misogyny and all this bullshit goes out of the window. And it's the same thing with racism, LGBT, all that stuff. If you get to a certain level, the people who run the place, their biases are going to go to the side. Unless they're going to, screw themselves. But 9 times out of 10, their biases are going to get kicked to the side. They're going to go ahead and try to cash that check. Let's go ahead and try it. So women live this life on easy mode where most of them could just make millions of dollars just taking pictures. They're very photogenic. Women have a very natural charisma. People like to look at them. That's why so many of these women left wrestling and made millions of dollars on OnlyFans. Like Toni Storm quit her job and made more money on OnlyFans than she ever did wrestling. And she had been wrestling for, 5 or 10 years? Maybe not 10. Maybe 5 or 6 years before that she did that. Mandy Rose basically quit wrestling so that she could do OnlyFans. Lacey Evans, she's doing porn with her husband. Chyna left the wrestling business to do porn. Sunny she screwed herself out of a lot of stuff, but left the wrestling business and did porn. Because taking your top off is easy money. No man can go and make $1 million by taking his shirt off. Nobody's going to pay, no matter how good a shape he's in, nobody's going to pay for a male OnlyFans. That's why you never see any. So when you meet any resistance at all, you start crumbling and going to this victim narrative that it has to be because you're a woman. It's not that at all. The men's division is more competitive. Now, because all the guys have higher expectations. There's more of them. Physically, numerically, there are more men on the roster than women. They're all working hard. Some of them are cheating by doing steroids. Some of them got privileges, like family that, works in the company or something like that. So there's all sorts of things going on. You just show up young and pretty, and all the fans start going crazy because you're young and pretty. And that's pretty much it. If you can manage to do a flip or something like that, then goddamn, you're the GOAT. If you can do 2 or 3 flips, oh my God. And people treat women like children. Oh my God, I'm so impressed that she can do a flip. If you actually held the women to the same standards as the men, really the only Japanese women would be any good. And even they don't have any sort of upper body strength. All these people with barely any lifting holds. It's weird. I get pissed when I hear these women talk like this. Because they have no idea how it really is to work for something. And it's not to discount the amount of work she's done. But she was earmarked for the spots that she was in. This is why I do have a modicum more respect for Becky Lynch, because she wasn't one of the those women that they wanted to really push out front. Bayley was another one, but Sasha Banks and Charlotte especially, with the two of the ones they were like, yeah, we're going to make these two. The company made it easy for you. You just had to not fuck it up for yourself. And then, due to your ego, you made it very difficult. But let's see what else you got to say, because I'm getting really hot now.
We can't lower ourselves anymore. Yeah. We can't stand back and being like, it's okay, I'll wait my turn. No, we're gonna take it. I'm gonna take it, and I'm gonna be consistent with it. So I think that's just on us for women to be like, no, we're keeping this spot. Thank you.
Okay. Oh my goodness. Not about to sit here and trade victim stories. Get real. Get real. You know, nobody cares when a man throws a tantrum. He's a big old baby, a crybaby. He might even get punished for throwing a tantrum. Very rarely in sports or anything where you'll see a man be super emotional and storm out and basically quit a job and then he gets to keep it. You know? Very rarely. How many times did this broad throw a fit and got to keep her job before somebody finally said enough's enough? I'm going to hold you accountable for your behavior. And then she was like, I gotta go. I don't like how you're talking to me. Well, 5 years, or more than 5 years, of your absolute bullshit, no matter how much we paid you, no matter what spots you got, you still have this deep resentment towards somebody else being more successful than you. Either it's another woman, like a Charlotte or a Ronda Rousey or a Becky Lynch or somebody like that, or it's the men. Enough's enough. You need a psychologist. Okay, this is deeply ingrained in you. You need help.
Yeah.
It's hard. And it's really hard to explain too, because I feel like I don't know, men just never want us equal. We always have to be a little right there to help their egos. But people like to think I have an ego too, so I'm always here, and the men will always be here to me in my mind. You know.
So she's doing a thing with her hands where she's talking about levels, and she says she's putting herself above the men. You know, that's her ego. But yes, that's exactly what's happening here. You have a massive ego without the history of success to justify it. All these people are dumping tons of money into you. AEW built an entire show around you. Did that show even sell out? That big business show, did it even sell out? They're running smaller venues now than they ever have before with you on the card. You're working in high school gyms. And you think that you're one of the bigger stars in the business? Nuh-uh. Nuh-uh. People were quiet during your matches. I heard a guy coughing in the background during one of these matches. Nobody's interested in anything she's doing in AEW. That's why they keep telling her to go back to WWE and be Sasha Banks again, and she's rolling her eyes and got a bad attitude about that. Because nobody cares about this. And I know this is damaging to her ego. I know that has to hurt. Oh, don't you see me? I'm Mercedes Moné. I'm such a big star. Go back to WWE. But why? Because this sucks, whatever this is. You're not good at this. Do something else. Do what we liked. You know? It's like telling the guy, what the fuck is the guy's name, man? Jaleel White. Go do Urkel. He insists that he's, fucking Rambo or something like that. Like, yeah, go be Urkel. But I don't want to be Urkel. Too bad, man. That's what you are. If you want to be, you ain't doing a good job of convincing me that you're somebody else. So therefore, you're Urkel. All right? And so Sasha Banks is Sasha Banks. Until this Mercedes thing can draw on its own, she's Sasha Banks. in a reskin. That's it. So this is ridiculous. So I'm gonna cheat a little bit. I skipped ahead. They're not talking about men anymore. So we're done here. I'm just floored. It's the men's ego holding the women back, not their lack of skill, technique, the amount of botches that they're having, the fact that people are not interested, the lack of reaction for her theme song, the lack of reaction when she comes into the building, the fact that she hasn't drawn a single fucking dollar since she left WWE. None of this stuff matters. It's all men's egos holding her back. But what man? Is it Moxley? You know? No. Yeah, I don't think so. Because he doesn't get a fucking reaction either. Anyway, I'll talk to you guys later.
Tell me what's worse than learning all that you led to believe was all horse crap. They distort, so question as if you worship.